Where's my tea? Alright, tornado threat should increase later today into tonight. I will be live for the next 3, 4, or 5 hours, depending on how long I can go until I have to go to bed for school in the morning. But right now, it's shaping up to be quite an active night. The squall line is going to be forming over pretty much central Oklahoma to eastern Oklahoma into Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, northeast Texas, and a few embedded QLCS tornadoes, along with damaging winds that will be possible. But currently, pretty much all along this line of severe thunderstorms, we are currently expecting to see a couple of strong tornadoes, some hail sizes up to golf ball size, and a the winds also could be as high as 60 to 70 to 75 to even 80 miles per hour. And right now, the most severe storms appear to be now up in Kansas and Missouri, but for a while it was mostly in Oklahoma. We have a few isolated supercells down here. These have been kind of discreet and isolated. Those have to be kept an eye on due to, well, their isolation. If you get one of these rotating storms isolated, they'll soak up all that energy in the atmosphere and use it to their advantage to spawn tornadoes, cause a large hail, and do a whole bunch of other stuff we really don't want. You have to excuse me for a moment. I'm turning on my live stream on my TV to make sure that it's actually running and I can see comments and yeah. No, that's my food, not yours. Kitty kitty. Okay, there you go. No, didn't want that. Oops. No, please stop. No, no, definitely did not want that. Come on, TV, work with me, please. Okay, there you go. I have live chat now activated, so I'll be able to see comments, the live comments in the live chat for any questions or, yeah, mostly just questions or whatever you need to say. Hopefully, we don't get very many tornadoes today. And it's mostly going to be a damaging wind event, especially up here in this area. I'm going to redo that. Mostly up here in that area. Currently watching that extremely closely. And over here in Oklahoma, let's go down here for a second. And these storms, one or two of these are rotating. They need to be kept a very close eye on with good velocity. We do have some rotation in here, along with 60 to 65 mile per hour winds at times. And I just see a little hook echo in here, or a little hook in there earlier. And down here, further to the south, we do have this severe storm. And like I said, these are all rotating, not fast enough to drop a tornado, but they are entering an environment where it will be favorable for tornadoes. And if this thing wants to work, there we go. And up here, along the Kansas-Oklahoma border, we do have more areas of damaging wind gusts 60 to 70 miles per hour all along the area. Like I said, all this needs to be kept a close eye on because it's all in a good environment for severe weather. Currently in the northeast, along Kansas, Missouri, this storm, one of these storms were tornado warned earlier, but for the most part, tornado threat isn't really there at all just yet. And the low level jet is still kicking in currently. But right now, wind and hail will still be a threat without a doubt. And where did my Chromebook go? I'll have to look for my Chromebook. All with you. Okay, got my laptop now so I can keep an eye on mesoscale discussions, new watches, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Make sure this is up to date. And there we go, it should be. There is a new mesoscale discussion, speaking of it, and this is for northeast Kansas and the far northwest Missouri. And it's going to be the risk for damaging winds and a few tornadoes will continue up there. We'll have to keep an eye on that for TLS-C tornadoes and damaging winds possibly up to 80 miles per hour. For Oklahoma, some of these storms, especially these isolated ones down to the south, Oklahoma City, Norman, Tuttle, we need to be keeping an eye on this band of storms because that particular area will be very prone to several of these storms, especially these isolated ones down here. They are completely alone. They are in a very favorable environment. So by the time they get into the Oklahoma City metro, they can be tornado producers. And by the time they do get to the Oklahoma City metro, if they do, they will be in a great environment, low level shear. Everything will be in place. Looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning, or at least a more recent one. Yep. Looks like the storm is a bit more bowed out a little bit. I don't see too much rotation in there. And it looks like out here, ooh, around the Tulsa area, Bartlesville, Oklahoma, there are some of these cells out here kind of alone by themselves. These need to be kept a close eye on as well. But I do think the highest tornado threat should be between the Oklahoma City, Wichita, Norman area, just this general spot right here, because these storms seem to be in a slightly more favorable environment. These have been spiking up a bit more and there are some isolated cells down to the southwest of Oklahoma City and Norman. So pretty much, if I had an area to really put a that enhanced like tornado risk, I think it would be kind of more like pretty much the same spot, but I think like the targeted area should be more almost Oklahoma City, Tulsa area because that is just going to be where the most more elevated risk for storm isolated supercells will be, as we've been seeing that down here to the southwest, where these storms have been a bit more isolated by themselves. So, hmm, we really need to be keeping a very close eye on these storms because these are currently tracking to, I think, the northeast at around, I think around 30, 35, 40 miles per hour. Yeah, 45 miles per hour. And it's going to keep track of these storms down here to the southwest and southwest Oklahoma as well. It looks like these have been really going up, especially this one south, directly south of Lawton, and this one south of Frederick. Those are probably supercells now, spinning, rotating thunderstorms heading to the northeast. A couple new looks like a couple new severe thunderstorm warnings up here as well, or I might be just going crazy. Nope, that's definitely new warning. And just northwest of Orlando, that looked a little funky. That was a little weird. Cape Canaveral. It looks like that cell weakened a little bit. But like I said, like these are all isolated supercells out here. They're in a good environment. Low level shear is starting to kick in, and will kick in overnight tonight as well. Currently, though, they're not exactly at their strongest. They will be at their peak later this evening and even into the overnight hours. And let's go back up to the north, towards the northeast, into this area. Don't want that radar. We still have a few of these cells ahead of the main line, the main cluster. We need to keep a close eye on these storms that are ahead of the bigger, more messier line that is causing a lot of wind damage too. So not up in Nebraska, there was a lot of wind damage reported from severe storms this morning. 90-mile-per-hour winds that can tear off portions of your roof. Currently, no new mesoscale discussions have been released. There was one a little while earlier, 19 minutes ago at this time, 19, 20 minutes ago. Currently, most of the severe weather seems to be kind of focusing in on Oklahoma, but when that tornado threat will increase, along with the wind threat later on this evening and even into the overnight hours, It all needs to be watched extremely closely. And looks like, yeah, at 9 o'clock, the first issued tornado watch will be dropped at around 9 o'clock Central Time, or 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And so there are still a few areas of rotation within this line. So that's a little interesting. Kingfisher, Marshall, Covington, Oklahoma, Billings, Red Rock, Marlin, Ponca City, all along that big piece of line. That is all severe. That all needs to be kept an eye on because, again, in a favorable environment for severe storms, and all these severe storms kind of fired up here off the dry line. Like I said in that update, the dry line actually stalled out here in the west rather than kept moving east. That's what allowed a whole bunch of these storms to fire off earlier in the day and stretch further to the southwest, which kept Oklahoma City and the metro around it under the gun for a strong tornado or two, and possibly a few more. Currently, these storms down here aren't showing much rotation on radar as of yet, but these storms still can pose a tornado risk as they move to the northeast. And eventually, all these storms will combine into one and move towards the southeast. And by the way, these storms have been producing quite a bit of rain. 1 hour accumulation, one about half to one to even 1 3/4 of an inch, according to this 1 hour accumulation right here. Let this one play for a minute. Still on the ground. There's still a bunch of rain coming out of this storm. There's expected to be even more rain on the way, and along with possibly more severe weather. I'll get onto that here in a little bit, either later today or tomorrow, depending on how long these storms last. I was supposed to upload a video today, but I keeping too close of an eye on these storms, so I didn't quite do that. So I'll try to upload 2 different videos tomorrow. I think there might be some rotation right there, pretty much right over Hall, Oklahoma. It's a little hard to tell, but it looks like there's a little hook kind of poking out a little bit there. Looks like this storm has a little bit of a left split a little bit. That's rapidly weakening. This right split is still going, though. A new cell popped up pretty much right over Carnage. Hopefully I said that right. Carnegie. I don't know, Fort Cobb, Oklahoma. That cell, looks like it may have almost been sucked up by this one up here. But this one is going to go, this one right here is going to go into the line of thunderstorms. And honestly, at the moment, tornado conditions aren't at their best. And like I said, the tornado threat will increase later on into the overnight hours rather than now, because that's when the low level jet will be at its strongest, the shear. And hopefully we don't get a strong tornado today. Hmm. You know, these isolated cells there, looks like some emerging there. There's a new one going over there over Sentinel, Oklahoma. There's still a few storms developing. It looks like there's the dry line for the looks of it. That is the dry line. The storm might get choked off. These storms down here that fired off the dry line, these have a much higher chance at rotating to produce a tornado or a few tornadoes rather than the cold front initiated storms up here to the north on those convected storms. And these are actually behind the cold front, so these could be completely choked off and will leave these storms the probability to spin and produce more tornadoes. But that's not totally locked in yet. So, okay, now there we go. That over with. Tornado threat continues to increase later this afternoon and evening. Tornado watches will remain in effect. Some as long the most recent one will expire at around 12, about midnight is when it'll end. No tornado warnings currently in effect, just tornado watches. Multiple severe thunderstorm watches, or technically just one, and multiple severe thunderstorm warnings in effect and will remain in effect. And these storms in southwest Oklahoma, it looks like they might be diminishing a little bit. That's good. We don't need that. But we have this cell trying to make a beeline for Oklahoma City. Hopefully that weekends. This storm right here is getting consumed into the main line. And let's go up here into Kansas City area, northeast Kansas. And right now, velocity data showing some gusty winds, 60, 65 mile per hour, but that looks to be mostly the threat for these storms up here. But like I said multiple times already, the tornado threat from what it looks like now will be highest around the Oklahoma City, Tulsa area, and maybe Wichita as well, because these storms that have been initiated off hi Anya Perry. Anyways, these storms have been produced by the dry line, have been fired off the dry line, and these storms have a much higher chance at producing multiple tornadoes. Maybe not multiple, but a few tornadoes. A couple should be strong, or could be strong. But at the moment, oh man, my nose. Is at the moment, tornado threat not at its highest. Like I said, it'll be at its peak later this evening into the overnight hours. And let's see here, any new updates from the Storm Prediction Center? Nope. And these storms are still moving between 40 to 45 miles per hour. A few might even get bumped up to around 50 miles per hour if they can get there. Let's go back to these southern storms in Oklahoma. Looks like that one over Geronimo, Oklahoma, just southeast of Lawton. That one looks like it's trying to re-strengthen. Looks like a little bit of a split going on between these two storms. And there's still this storm just east of Frederick, Oklahoma, still going up. Looks like here's the dry line. That really thin. Looks like clouds. That's probably the dry line right there. And notice how these storms are having a slight push to the east rather than going completely to the northeast. And that's what's going to happen. This entire line is going to start being pressed down to the southeast as the cold front makes its way through. And this cold front is going to make Halloween feel really, really nice for Kansas, Oklahoma, and even possibly Texas. But obviously here, a day before Halloween, we're dealing with severe weather and even some snow for some of these northern states all the way up here, specifically Wyoming, northern Colorado, and even some snow out here in this big old region out here, northwest and west of the Great Lakes. And let's refocus on what's going on now. Tiny cell going over Sentinel, Oklahoma. That might be being choked off by the dry line. That might just completely get choked off and die off. And currently, still have that tornado threat in place. But like I said, in my forecast, like what I've been looking at, it looks like the tornado chances will peak Norman, Oklahoma City, Guthrie, Stillwater, Perry, Tulsa, Bartlesville, and it may be as far north as Wichita, Anthony, Arkansas City, and Kansas, that area. These are like the two hotspots I think will spark and will have the higher threat for tornadoes just by seeing some models recently. In Oklahoma City, I'd be watching these storms down here in the southwest. They're all alone. They have time to strengthen, to mature, and blow up into massive supercells that can be capable of producing strong tornadoes later this evening and overnight hours, especially when this line starts moving to the southeast. Going up to northern Oklahoma, this line of storms showing like little tornado icons. I don't really like that. And I'm seeing a few little spots. I'm seeing a few spots of rotation in here as well, which is obviously not a very good sign. From Crescent, Hall, Orlando, Perry, Oklahoma, Red Rock, on the front edge, we could see a mesocyclone develop, spawn a tornado, and this is in an area where we could still see a strong tornado or two, as well as that area outlined by the SPC, the Storm Protection Center, ranges pretty much from Oklahoma City up to Kansas City and all the way back down, pretty much along that big line of thunderstorms. And specifically, like around this Tulsa area, we have some isolated storms going on, but they are seeming to be merging, and a whole bunch of small cells down here in southwest Oklahoma that need to be kept an eye on as well. Looks like a new little teeny tiny cell trying to spawn off the dry line in Roosevelt, Oklahoma. Looks like the dry line trying to start some more trouble here in Oklahoma. And I can't really express this enough, with the triple point being pretty much right there. That's where your low pressure system is. And you have your dry line back here, the cold front, pretty much up here. And that's going to cause these storms in this area to have a bit more rotation, have a bit more spin than we would up here. And we just got a new severe thunderstorm warning right there. Let's hop on over there real quick. On these storms, it's kind of bowing, almost has a, let me go back. It has almost a bow shape, like what you see a bow and arrow. It looks like it has a slight bow shape. And when these storms have that bow shape, they do have the capabilities of producing strong winds and even a few tornadoes. We've seen it happen multiple times before, but they're most of the time they're kind of like squall lines. They're brief and they're usually very weak, and that's what we could see come out of this eventually. But some of these storms up here in the north, like that, all that, we can still see sorry, oh my goodness, my freaking brain is refusing to work right now. QLCS tornadoes with some of the embedded, weak, brief tornadoes. We could still see those, obviously, but for the most part, I think it might have been kind of undercut by that cold front. And oops, I did not mean to stay there. And we had a storm east of Lawton that's still, from the looks of it, increasing. In a sense, it might have gone down just a little bit. Looks like it gone down just a little bit. And yes, a few of these isolated storms, they're starting to go down just a little bit. And we still have these storms up here producing 60 to 65, even 70 mile per hour wind gusts at times. And that's what I'm keeping an eye on currently, besides this area in southeast Kansas, and this up here in Missouri and northeast Kansas. I can look outside my window and I can see one of the storms. They were climbing quite high earlier, but they've recently kind of fell a little bit. They were starting to climb, but they're now just starting to go down. And I'm starting to wonder if some of these storms might have fired off a bit too early in the day. That definitely could have happened. It wouldn't surprise me if that's why, like, they're a little weaker at the moment, but they still will be posing a severe threat. And like I said, these storms down here, they don't seem to be, like, they seem to be going up and down, up and down. This storm north of Gracemont, Oklahoma, that is began to significantly weaken. We still have a tiny cell developing south of Hobart and north of Roosevelt, Oklahoma. And it looks like, yeah, another small cell going up there south of Cordell, Oklahoma. And it looks like that original cell from a little while earlier, that has started to weaken now as well. It looks like it may have accidentally pushed itself behind the the dry line. And right now, the triple point is like over here in northwest Oklahoma, southeast Kansas. We have the dry line extending down to the southwest, cold front stretching up quite a bit. We have like 10 dew points behind the dry line and 60 to even 70 dew points ahead of the dry line. And that's obviously going to be fueling quite a bit of these storms, and what that spark was to get a whole bunch of these storms going. And it looks like might be a bit of rotation on that storm northwest of Medicine Park and west of Apache, Oklahoma. This cell looks like about to go into Hobart. That cell has been going up a little bit over Cordell. A couple cells there starting to sprout up now as well. Going back into northern Oklahoma, we have a few of these storms. And it looks like this one over Perry might be rotating a little bit. A few of these do have, east of Red Rock, looks like going to be some rotation there as well. Red Rock, Oklahoma. And a few of these storms, they will rotate and they will have little embedded tornadoes within the big main line. And that's what's going to continue happening overnight as these storms move out to the southeast into Oklahoma, eastern Oklahoma. And that's when tornado threats will continue to diminish a little bit and be QCLS tornadoes. And they won't be as strong. Obviously, they'll be embedded into the main line. They won't be like supercellular strong tornadoes like what we'll see. Like I said, possibly around the Oklahoma City metro, Norman, Tulsa, currently, or kind of more around that area. And yeah. Up here in Kansas City, if you live in Kansas City, I'll be keeping an eye on these storms as well. I'm here tracking it for you. Looks like some 60, maybe even a few 65s in here, ranging from about Overbrook, Kansas, as far north as about Winchester, Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, and eventually this will make its way over into Kansas City. Those need to be kept an eye on because those could also wrap up into a brief, weak tornado in there. But even those brief tornadoes can still pose a threat to human life and can still damage your property. There might be some slight rotation there near Crescent, Oklahoma. Mulehall looks like a little hook trying to come out a little bit there. And these storms to the north of Oklahoma, a few of these are still rotating, has kind of slightly embedded, probably mesocyclones in here, and that's going to have to be kept a close eye on as well. Almost 7 o'clock, it's about 6:59 here in a few seconds. It's going to be 7 o'clock p.m. Central Daylight Time, or 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. But if you live out in the mountains, it's going to be 6 o'clock p.m. for you guys, and way out on the Pacific Coast, for you guys all the way out there, it will be 5 o'clock for you guys. Looking at, let's go ahead and look at SRV, storm relative velocity, and still quite a few areas of rotation where we could see embedded tornadoes, some of these supercells embedded supercells trying to wrap up and spawn tornadoes. And down here to the southwest Oklahoma, these cells heading to the northeast. A few of these are starting to diminish. And it looks like this one over here, west of Apache, that one seems to be strengthening quite a bit. This one over Hobart, still trying to go strong, still trying to remain at least somewhat pretty kind of modest, but needs to be kept an eye on regardless, as that storm is going to keep going up, and it is isolated. It is in a favorable area for strong, severe weather. And up here to the north, here in Oklahoma, north central Oklahoma seems to be the hot spot for the like little rotation spots. And we do have a new mesoscale discussion, and we'll look at this real quick from apparently 4 minutes ago. And it's an increasing severe threat out here in northeast Oklahoma, north of the Tulsa area, Bartlesville, and just that area. These storms in there has an increasing severe threat from not only these storms, but also the main line as well. And let's go ahead and go out to Tulsa real quick. And yeah, looks like a few of these storms, they are kind of strong thunderstorms. And a few of these are probably rotating. A few of these are rotating. They are supercells, but not all supercells are severe warned. And I'm going to read this real quick. Discrete cells have recently increased across northeast Oklahoma ahead of the linear convective band. Farther west along the leading edge of slightly richer low-level moisture, and a few of them should deepen uh, into supercells shortly within rather favorable deep layer shear per the Tulsa area, while severe wind potential upstream linear band shifts east northeast. The tornado threat should increase as these cells become absorbed into the line, where surface dew points at or above 63 degrees Fahrenheit can't be maintained. This appears most probable across parts of the northeast Oklahoma into southeast Kansas. You know, that does not mean that the tornado threat has been diminished everywhere else. That just means that there's going to be an increasing threat up here in northeast Oklahoma and southeast Kansas. Ow. Popped my ankle. That kind of hurt. And we still have these cells up here in north central Oklahoma. I'm going to go into velocity. Still a few areas of rotation where the mesocyclones could be kind of residing at. Up here in Kansas, I haven't checked up on this storm in a while. Still have some 60 mile per hour wind gusts, and according to this, up to 70. Oh man, my voice cracks are brutal right now. And it looks like quite a few of these supercells up here, just a whole bunch of supercells kind of embedded in the line down here in Oklahoma. That little cell over Hobart trying to survive, trying to grow. And it looks like the storm east of Lawton has significantly shrunk. But it looks like these storms are trying to get a hold of themselves, trying to go back up. That storm over that little cell over Gracemont has now completely dissipated. And with about Weatherford, Oklahoma, up to the north, and the Perry, Ponca City. And that area is going to be the main line of thunderstorms for Oklahoma. And that does stretch a little further to the northeast, just a little bit. And in that area, we can expect to see obviously some winds, rain, hail. When do you have swimming? Storm Prediction Center, we'll see if they said anything extra about anything in the mesoscale discussions. Not quite anymore. Anyways, currently in the North Tulsa area, we do have these isolated cells, these discrete cells. These cells are going to have a higher chance to develop tornadoes as they get embedded into the line later this evening. And back into central, actually, let's go up to Kansas City again. Kansas City area. We still have this area is severe. Definitely not seeing as much storm activity as I thought, but that could easily change in the next couple of hours. It looks like a new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued, and rotation kind of fizzled out a little bit. The low-level jet is still there, but right now, I have to say, all afternoon and evening so far, we've had the jet stream slowly increasing in size and size. Oh my brain is just all over the place today. Anyways, the low level jet is still slowly increasing in strength. It's going to get faster and faster, and eventually, some more storms should pop up here in the West Oklahoma City metro, and the embedded line will continue moving. And the triple point up here, the cold front, along with the dry line. The cold front will eventually overtake the dry line, and all this storm, blob of mess of storms, including up here to the north, all of that will turn into a squall line and move to the southeast, with the threat of damaging winds up to 70, 75, even up to 80 miles per hour overnight into early tomorrow morning, and quite a few brief key LCS tornadoes are possible. And right now, the tornado warnings are all, or sorry, tornado watches. Tornado watches are all still in effect. Currently, no tornado warnings, just 8 severe thunderstorm warnings. Still poses a threat for human, like, safe for your safety, obviously. And it looks like the cell's still popping up here in Hobart. That's isolated, so that needs to be kept an eye on. Weatherford, Corn, northeast of Cordell. Some cells there trying to go up now as well. And we still have these cells near Lawton that could still develop and mature. And this is just showers back here south of Cache, Oklahoma, southwest of Lawton. And we still have these cells here west of the Oklahoma City metro area. Those could still develop and mature into stronger cells. Up here in Kansas, southern Kansas, looks like there might actually be some very heavy rains and hail right there. And let's go ahead and look at 1 hour accumulation real quick. And not as heavy as rain as I thought. The heaviest rain in this part of the state, Kansas, is right there, maybe half an inch to a 3/4 inch of rain. But that's what they're. Look at Oklahoma. Let's go back down to Oklahoma here for a second. One over 1 inch of rain in there, and where that blue's at, from roughly North Crescent, Oklahoma, to just west of Orlando, Oklahoma. In that area, one, looks like about 3/4 to 1.5 inches, maybe a bit more than that, of rain. And Oklahoma really needs it. They need it to help battle the drought. And eventually, tomorrow, all these states out here will get some much needed rain. And more rain will also be on the way with a deepening trough that will eventually make its way into the southern and central plains to bring severe weather and much needed rain. We need the rain, but not the severe weather. And it looks like a new cell popping up west of Davidson. That's even lonelier. And another cell there northeast of Seymour, Texas. These are starting to go up in a favorable environment for severe weather, but they still need time to mature and materialize as the low-level jet will continue bringing moisture and strength to these storms. Going back up to the Kansas City area, just west of Kansas City, it looks like there might be a little bit of a bulge here. Keeping an eye on anything that's kind of bulging out because it can be rotation and a tornado attempting to form. And down here, it's saying about Perry, Oklahoma, down to north of Crescent and west of Orlando. In this area, we can see from what looks like a few little hail cores trying to develop. And right now, maybe quarter to maybe just a little, if not a little below ping pong ball size hail. And that will also cause quite a few troubles. And I'm going to go get myself a drink real quick. I'm going to leave this going in case something new pops up. Huh? And I'm going to take a really brief break to go get a drink, and I'll be back in here in here in a minute or two. Okay, I am back. Let's see if there's anything new in the Storm Prediction Center. There, in fact, is nothing new just yet. No tornado warnings, only tornado watches at the moment. Severe thunderstorm watch issued in Iowa and far north Missouri, I'm pretty sure. More just northern Missouri now. And the tornado watches, there hasn't been a reported tornado yet today, but there has been a lot of wind reports thus far. And, what are you doing? Oh, no, thank you. There we go. Currently, tornado threat isn't at its peak yet. Like I've been saying, the tornado threat should peak around, probably around 8 to 9 to even 10, or even later than that in the evening and overnight hours as the low-level jet starts really kicking in around that time. It looks like a few of these cells are starting to pop up, starting to strengthen. This one over Hobart, that's still going, and a few of these corn and south of Weatherford, those cells are really starting to go up as well. Here, these two storms are also starting to really go up now as well. Okay. And there is also this cell down here just west of Marlow, Oklahoma. That has been going on for a while, but hasn't been severe. There's only or that one just expired, three severe thunderstorm warnings at the moment. One south of Perry, Oklahoma, Cass Crescent, mostly for quarter-size hail and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, or apparently ping pong ball size hail. That isn't really surprising much. And there will still be the possibility of some embedded rotation in here, and that's what we're kind of seeing here. There could be rotation all the way up this line, and that will pose a risk for some embedded tornadoes. Yeah, let's go ahead and go up here in southeast Kansas. These cells, still a possibility for some hail in there, and it looks like it might be trying to rotate just a little bit, just by a little bit. Yeah. Threats starting to burn a little bit for some reason. There's currently only 3 severe thunderstorm warnings in the country, and there is a chance for flooding as well. I'm pretty sure it's a slight risk today for flooding. Oh no, today's a marginal risk. Oh no, it was uh Saturday and Sunday with the slight risk. Today was a marginal risk for today. But still have that slight flooding risk. Let's go ahead and go back over to out here northeast of Crescent and Orlando, Oklahoma. Oops, wrong one. Meant to go to Velocity. It looks like there will be some embedded rotation in here, just a little bit, with the chance for a few brief tornadoes. Down here to the southwest, although these are not severe, these storms, especially these two, this one's actually moving a bit to the northeast, going towards, almost directly towards the metro. If that can really start to pick up, get into that deep shear, that jetster, low-level jet, we could be looking at a possible tornado in like Moore, Norman, Tuttle, if this thing can really deepen into that favorable wind shear and that low level jet. But right now, they're not severe. They're just a bunch. There's just a few showers. But notice how the greens and yellows are now going to oranges and reds. That is a sign of strengthening. These are rotating supercells that have been fired off the dry line. Again, these storms out here, I've been talking about it all day. They have a higher chance at having a tornado or two because they fired off the dry line, and what that does is the possibility of having tornadoes just higher out here because it has more low-level jet shear, and the tornado parameter has been showing kind of a general area out here to the northeast. But all these cells down here are still rotating, and the dry line is right here, cold front up here, and that triple point. And right now, it's like how long is 25 minutes, 40 minutes, and I know what the cell I wanted. All right, still like 20 to 40 minutes left on these severe thunderstorm warnings, or really what's left of severe thunderstorms. Looks like over here in Perry, it looks like a little small hail core developing there, and still some looks like embedded rotation. Oh my goodness, that voice cracked. And still some embedded rotation in these storms that could drop a few isolated embedded tornadoes. Let's look up here in Tulsa real quick, and ooh, this storm near Avens, Oklahoma, that has a little hook on it. North of Barnesville, that cell has a little hook on it. Juan, east and northeast of Bartlesville, a whole bunch of, well, looks like quite a few of these little cells have little hooks on them. And like I said, these are all supercells. These are supercells. These are supercells. We have embedded supercells in here as well. As these storms lose daytime heating, they might actually weaken before they can actually produce anything. And let's hope that's what happens. But we know what happens at night when that low-level jet really starts ripping. That's when things start getting kind of nasty. That's what it looks like currently for these two cells. These are still going up. And the cells to the southwest, looks like they're starting to weaken in Texas. This cell that was over Hobart, it looks like that's still trying to hold on. These cells over Corn, Colony, and Weatherford, Oklahoma, those cells are still going up as well. Let's go over here into Kansas. These are still producing 60 to 65, maybe a few isolated gusts up to 70 miles per hour. But from the looks of it, it's really not producing that much wind. But we still need to keep an eye on that entire line. This is just an entire line of severe thunderstorms for possible embedded tornadoes, especially along this front edge. This front edge is the primary concern for those embedded tornadoes because it allows for that inflow to come in and help with that spin. Now let's go over to this radar, check out North Oklahoma. Still seeing, it looks like some embedded rotation, but not very much. Down here to the south, these cells, looks like this cell might be splitting. This cell still increasing in size and strength, still moving to the northeast towards the Oklahoma City metro area. And if this storm can connect with the atmospheric conditions and the low-level jet, it can really start to get a grip on things and create a tornado threat. Currently, that I can kind of circle out a little bit here in a big swath of area. And pretty much this area, this cell could travel around in, and I'm going to increase it a little bit to the south as well. But in that big area, we could see a strong tornado as well. if these cells, isolated cells, can get a grip onto themselves and seriously dig into the atmospheric conditions. Up here in Kansas again, let's actually go to the Kansas City area, just west of Kansas City. It looks like it's starting to bow out just a little bit here. And we still have these isolated cells out ahead of the main line. If those can dig into the atmospheric conditions as well, they can also start developing possible embedded tornadoes. No new mesoscale discussion or watches, but there has been another severe thunderstorm watch issued here up here the whole hour for this storm particularly. It has golf ball size hail coming out of it. It looks like there's quite a bit of a bulge trying to, yeah, it looks like storm's trying to spin just a little bit. Just trying to. I'm not saying that there will be a tornado on the ground, but there is still that real possibility that this thing could suddenly bulge out, create a mesocycle, and really rip up into a tornado without a doubt. Plug in my other earbud here, and hopefully, if any of you guys are watching, hopefully you guys can hear me. Comment if you can still hear me real quick. If there's anybody watching, comment like you can hear me or something. Hmm, take out my other earbud. Okay, I should still be connected. If there's anybody watching, comment something like and make sure that you can still make so I can make sure like you can still hear me. Let me plug in my headphone case real quick. And it looks like these storms they might be starting to make that easterly turn. They should be making that easterly turn here in just a while. And these two cells, possibly a third splitting cell right there, they still need to be kept a close eye on. This cell seems to be dying out a little bit. And it looks like this cell trying to expand and possibly strengthen. It looks like it's not really going to do much. Up here in northern Oklahoma, it still got looks like a little, almost like a bulge shape. And it looks like, yeah, there's going to be probably some real rotation in that. That's going to have to be kept a very close eye on if that continues to spin and rotate. Up here to the north, looks like another little bulge trying to form there. Again, embedded tornadoes could occur all along this line from West Oklahoma City Metro all the way to the Kansas City area. All up in that large area, we could see an embedded supercell that can spawn a tornado. And so I'm trying to do something right now. Trying to make sure my computer, my laptop's just fine. Like, we could see multiple tornadoes today. We could see a few tornadoes today. A couple maybe strong. Damaging wind event overnight as well. And we still have these cells in the West Oklahoma City area that need to be kept a close eye on. This storm over Apache, that seems to have kind of stayed somewhat stronger and trying to stay strong for the looks of it. This cell up here over Gracemont has also kept trying to increase in size and strength. It's trying to, and it looks like it's gonna go right in between El Reno and Oklahoma City. El Reno, probably Yukon, and just west of Mustang. Probably this thing could still make a turn into Mustang. Actually, anything, any town, anybody in the way of these cells need to keep a close eye on everything because these can really spin up out of nowhere. That's the kind of conditions we may be dealing with today. And it looks like the cap might actually be keeping some of the storms to the south in check. At least looks like it's still a little bulge a little bit there. Again, no tornado warnings. It's all just severe thunderstorm warnings. And with the still tornado threat today, though, without a doubt, especially later tonight and overnight. And we do have this group of cells still way out here. And, oh, look at that one over Bartlesville. That is looking quite like a supercell. But some of these storms are gonna have to be kept a very close eye on now too, because some of these storms will definitely try to wrap up into a supercell, a stronger supercell, and try to produce a tornado. Yeah, let's go ahead and go down here to the southwest for a minute here. Again, we still do have these two, maybe even a third cell that might try to develop. And if these cells can try to track to the southeast into the city, which they eventually will, and then that could also continue posing quite a threat for severe weather as these storms enter the metro area. 58 minutes remaining on the severe thunderstorm warning, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, golf ball size hail according to the radar. And let's go up here into southeast Kansas. We still have this area where you have 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Hail may not be that big, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's still like a little spot here and there with a few quarters. Pea-sized hail in there. Teeny tiny, non-threatening hail. Although they could still give you just a little tonk, just a little tink on the head. These cells to the south, still isolated, still discrete, with the potential for a tornado possibly increasing kind of overnight tonight. And a new mesoscale discussion has been issued by the Storm Prediction Center. And it looks like a corridor for enhanced severe threat, ranging from the Tulsa area out west into Stillwater, northeast Oklahoma City. Severe wind and isolated hail threats should persist for the next several hours. The tornado threat may increase during the next few hours ahead of the more intense windier segment over north central Oklahoma. Infrared cloud tops signatures suggest the deepest core of the evening was centered on Logan, Noble counties, border area within the extensive linear band. Surface dew points ahead of the part of the band are in the mid-60s, maybe 64 to 65, with this air mass well sampled by the 00ZOUN sounding, despite weak 700 to 500 millibar lapse rates around C/6 C/km. Next layer cape of 1500 joules per kilogram exists with a moderately enlarged sickle-shaped hydrograph. The low-level jet in the Twin Lakes area has increased during the past hour. It is possible that with a sustained swath of severe wind damage, along with low-level mesocyclones capable of producing a couple tornadoes may evolve from this portion of the line. This may eventually impact parts of the greater Tulsa metro area by late evening and possibly the overnight hours as well. So it definitely seems like North Central Oklahoma is becoming the main show again. As the definitely up in this region, we could still see some more severe weather pop up. And over here, with these cells still uh, going towards the Oklahoma City metro, maybe they won't have to be kept as close to an eye on after all. Hopefully that is the truth, but I'm going to stay here until about, say, 7:45 before I get off, because I'm going to have to before I, because I'm going to have to go to bed soon anyways, because of school in the morning. Actually, let's see here. I'm probably going to have to get off now, actually. And my phone's starting to heat up quite a bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave now. And if severe weather starts to pop up again before 10 o'clock p.m. Uh, Central Daylight Time, then I will try to hop back on. Be safe and no problem. GM2B Broken Cock. I'm only a high schooler, so I won't have the most time in the world to live stream. And I'm trying to stream before 8 o'clock p.m. But if I have to, I will stream a little after. But anyways, happy Halloween, everybody. Happy early Halloween, anyways, everybody. Be safe. Be weather aware. Have your tornado action in place in case you are under a tornado warning.